Hezekiah arranged the priests. We're still in 2 Chronicles 31. We haven't left. 2 Chronicles 31, verse 2. Hezekiah assigned the priests and Levites to divisions, each of them according to their duties as priests or Levites, to offer burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, to minister, to give thanks, and to sing praises at the gates of the Lord's dwelling. Now this goes back again to how David had set it up at the end of 1 Chronicles, where he set up these divisions. We read about that in the last several chapters of 1 Chronicles, all these plans that went into the temple worship. And these priests were supposed to be divided into 24 units that would each be serving different times. Oh, excuse me. Wow. That was... That's in the First Chronicles, chapter 24, where they assigned 24 divisions of priests. And then assign them by lot to their weeks of service in the year, throughout the year. So we're going back to that again. The king contributed from his own possessions for the morning and evening burnt offerings, and for the burnt offerings and the Sabbaths, new moons, and appointed feasts, as written in the law of the Lord. Remember, they were supposed to offer a burnt offering for the whole nation every morning and every evening. And they're also supposed to offer additional burnt offerings on the Sabbaths and the new moons and, of course, the special festivals. This is in addition to the burnt offerings that the worshipers themselves would bring of their own free will whenever they felt compelled to do so. The priests were always supposed to offer these mandatory, mandated burnt offerings on behalf of the whole nation, twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, and then on these separate special days. He ordered the people living in Jerusalem to give the portion due the priests and Levites, so they could devote themselves to the law of the Lord. They were supposed to do that. The priests were supposed to get, and the Levites were supposed to get their portion from the people so they could focus solely on being priests and Levites. As soon as the order went out, the Israelites generously gave the first fruits of their grain, new wine, olive and honey, and all the fields produced. They brought a great amount, a tithe of everything. The men of Israel and Judah who lived in the towns of Judah also brought a tithe of their herds and flocks, and a tithe of the holy things, dedicated to the Lord their God. The holy things dedicated to the Lord their God, and they piled them in heaps. They began doing this in the 3rd month and finished in the 7th month. When Hezekiah and his officials came and saw the heaps, they praised the Lord and blessed his people Israel. Hezekiah asked the priests and Levites about the heaps. And Azariah, the chief priest in the family of Zadok, answered, "Since the people began to bring their contributions to the temple of the Lord, we have had enough to eat and plenty to spare, because the Lord has blessed his people, and this great amount is left over." These are just the leftovers. These can go in storage and be saved for a rainy day. Hezekiah gave orders to prepare storerooms in the temple of the Lord, and this was done. Then they faithfully brought in the contributions, tithes, and dedicated gifts. Conaniah, a Levite, was in charge of these things, and his brother Shimei was next in rank. Jehiel, Azaziah, Nahath, Asahel, Jeremoth, Jozabad, Eliel, Ismachiah, that's a good one, Ismachiah, Mahath and Benaiah were supervisors under Conaniah and Shimei his brother, by appointment of King Hezekiah, and Azariah the official in charge of the temple of God. Kor, son of Inma the Levite, keeper of the east gate. Remember, they had these gatekeepers and guardians for different parts of the temple, and the east gate was the most important because that was the entrance. That was the one that faced the sun. That was the most important direction. Was in charge of the free will offerings given to God, distributing the contributions, not confiscations. It's not a free will offering if it's confiscated. These are the free will offerings. So he's distributing the contributions made to the Lord and also the consecrated gifts. Eden, Miniamin, Jeshua, Shemaiah, Amariah, and Shechaniah assisted him faithfully in the towns of the priests, distributing to their fellow priests according to their divisions, old and young alike. In addition, They distributed to the males 3 years old or more, whose names are in the genealogical records. It seems like it should be 30, but I guess it's 3, I don't know. All who would enter the temple of the Lord to perform the daily duties of their various tasks, according to their responsibilities and the divisions. They entered the service at 30, so I don't know why it says 3. Maybe it's a scribal error, I'm not sure. At any rate, they distributed to the priests enrolled by their families in the genealogical records, and likewise the Levites 20 years old or more. Now you entered the training at age 20. You entered full service at 30, according to their responsibilities and their divisions. They include all the little ones, those under 20, the wives, and the sons and daughters of the whole community listed in these genealogical records, for they were faithful in consecrating themselves. As for the priests, the descendants of Aaron, who lived in the farmlands around their towns or in any other towns, men were designated by name to distribute portions to every male among them, and to all who were recorded in the genealogies of the Levites. This is what Hezekiah did throughout Judah, doing what was good and right and faithful before the Lord his God. In everything that he undertook, in the service of God's temple, and obedience to the law and the commands, he sought his God and worked wholeheartedly. And so he prospered. But again, as I said at the end of the last video, when you have someone working so well in service to God, you're going to get negative attention eventually, and it happens here too. 2 Chronicles chapter 32, verse 1. After all that Hezekiah had so faithfully done, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came and invaded Judah. That's where we're going to leave off there. We'll come back to 2 Chronicles later. For now, we're going to skip back to 2 Kings and begin reading the narrative. I usually start with 2 Kings. I usually start with Kings. I usually give Kings primacy. I tend to give Kings primacy, but in this case, I write Chronicles first because it has a lot of information about Hezekiah's early reign that is not in Kings, or summarized very, very briefly in Kings. Okay, so 2 Kings are going to go back to the beginning of chapter 18. I may have read this in a previous video, I'm not sure. All this bouncing around I'm doing between Kings and Chronicles and the prophet books, I'm not always clear on what I've read and maybe what I've skipped or covered or had to go back and read again or whatever. But I think I've read the beginning of 2 Kings 18 already, but I'm going to go ahead and read it again here to help with the context for the sections to come. Second Kings 18. In the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. Now this is where it gets really tricky. Okay, so Hoshea is the king of Israel in the 720s BC. Israel is going to fall to Assyria in 722 BC. Hoshea will not be king after that. So Hezekiah apparently had some kind of kingship going on even in Hoshea's reign, which is in the 720s BC. The 3rd year of Hoshea, I guess, is what, 727 BC? So this indicates that Hezekiah's reign started in 727 BC, whereas in Chronicles, which doesn't mention this, it seems like it's 715 BC. Let's continue reading here. He, Hezekiah, was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. This is the same information that's in Chronicles. That is probably referring to his sole reign. It's tricky because verses 1 and 2 don't quite go together, per se. We're missing, and there should be like a sentence. I'm not saying there used to be and has been edited out. I'm just saying that in our minds, there should be a connecting sentence between these two sentences to explain the relationship of verse 1 to verse 2. Because it seems as though verse 1 is talking about Hezekiah becoming a co-regent with his father, and then verse 2 is talking about him becoming sole regent, sole king later on. That's what it seems like to me. That is the impression that I get. Now, if the 3rd year of Hoshea is 727 BC, and that's 12 years before Hezekiah becomes full king, and he becomes full king at 25, that means he was about 13 or so when he became co-regent. I don't think a 13-year-old would be responsible for all the things we just got done reading in the previous chapters of Chronicles. So I'm guessing that stuff happened at the beginning of his sole reign when he was 25, after Ahaz was out of the picture completely. But it's fuzzy, like I'm telling you. I really honestly don't know. There's a lot of chronological ambiguity here. It's precise. I mean, we have a lot of dates, but exactly how they match up together is fuzzy. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. His mother's name was Abijah, daughter of Zechariah. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father David had done. He removed the high places. He smashed the sacred stones, and he cut down the Asherah pole. We got done. That's a summary statement. We got done reading about all that in much greater detail in 2 Chronicles. He broke into pieces the bronze snake Moses had made. For up to that time, the Israelites had been burning incense or praying to it. It was called Nehushtan, which means or sounds like the Hebrew for bronze, and snake, and unclean thing. A bronze, unclean thing of a snake. Now that goes all the way back to their time in the desert when God sent the plague of snakes after them, and Moses prayed, and then they got the bronze snake as a solution they were supposed to look at whenever they got bitten by the poisonous snakes. So they apparently had this thing this whole time. I'm not sure if they were supposed to have it. I'm not sure if this is where we're supposed to keep it, but apparently they did. This is Numbers 21. They traveled around Mount Hor, and then they got impatient. They grumbled, and the Lord sent venomous snakes. He came to Moses and said, "We have sinned. Pray." So Moses prayed, and the Lord said to Moses, "Make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live." So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. And anyone who was bitten by the snake looked at the bronze snake and lived. That was in Numbers 21. So that was in 1400-ish BC. That was in the late 1400s BC. And apparently, this is now in the late 700s BC. About 700 years later, apparently they've had this thing the whole time. And it's been in the temple the whole time, apparently. We haven't really heard it mentioned up until now. But apparently it's been here the whole time. I don't think they would have been burning incense to it this whole time. That is probably a pretty recent development. But at any rate, they were never told to keep this or ordered or commanded to keep this. This was not an official part of their temple decorations or anything like that. And it has become an idol to them. I don't know if it was always that way. I don't think so, because we haven't heard it mentioned before. But it has, in Hezekiah's day at least, it has become an idol to them, so it's got to go. Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. That's basically the king's summary of everything we read about in Chronicles. Everything we read about in Chronicles, for those couple chapters just now, apparently were summarized in those two instances in Kings. Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. There was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, either before him or after him. He held fast to the Lord and did not cease to follow him. He kept the commands the Lord had given Moses, and the Lord was with him. Jehovah was with Hezekiah. He was successful in whatever he undertook. He rebelled against the king of Assyria and did not serve him. From watchtower to fortified city. Remember, he inherited a vassal relationship with Assyria from his father. He doesn't really want that, though. So at some point, probably not right away, he probably went ahead and went along with it, at least for the time being, so he could have time. Because if he breaks this relationship with Assyria, there's going to be consequences. If he stops paying tribute to Assyria and breaks his treaty relationship with Assyria, they're going to come after him, and he would know that. Everybody in the ancient world would know that. He probably went ahead and kept it up for a while so he would have time to prepare his people religiously to get back to God before he made his intentions known to cut off. He probably always intended to cut off with Assyria. But most likely he didn't do it right away for the sake of keeping the status quo going while he focused on his religious reforms first and foremost. That's my guess. It doesn't actually say that, but that's my guess. From watchtower to fortified city, he defeated the Philistines as far as Gaza and its territory.